Welcome to A Course in Miracles. So you guys are always all probably aware that the next coming holiday is Halloween.
It's not a holiday for me.
Well, at least it's a celebration that's recognized as celebrating what?
Candy collection.
Sugar.
Death.
Hold up at your front door.
I mean, skeletons and the whole, there's lots of high.
It's a weird holiday.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Nick. David.
Lisa.
Robert. Jake.
Cecilia. Marcia.
Wendy.
Great. So,
We have a few people that are...
a few remote people, we don't even know their names. We know one of them now.
Well, send an email so we can find out what your names are.
Yeah. Okay, so
Thursday, give a better celebration.
So it is time for us to consider what's so very important to the ego that you actually are aware of it and think about it a lot more than you might be willing to admit. And you probably wouldn't be proud of it either. The topic is death. Now we're still discussing A Course in Miracles, but built into A Course in Miracles, of course, is healing of your addiction to the ego way of life.
That's part of it.
So the ego describes life as being born, living for a while, getting stronger, then getting weaker, and dying.
Spring, summer, fall, winter.
Yeah, and then out. Isn't that life?
Yeah.
Isn't that life? Of Course in Miracles so many times will teach things by their opposites. You know something really well if you know its opposite. So, we would like to awaken. We would like to celebrate life, more life, spiritual life. And yet, are any of these bodies going to live any more than 120 years? Okay, we got one. 130. At some point, you're going to start. If I just had 100, most of you said, "Yeah, I can do it." We all know. I know people who 100, 130, 150. It's never been done.
Define what living is.
Well, I mean the body pulling in air and blowing out air.
Having a pulse, a heart rate.
And the reason why we have to ground this is we're in a spiritual meeting, all right, and we would talk about, I'm not a body, and that, I, whatever I am, will certainly, live beyond whatever this body is. Yeah, that's because we're in a spiritual meeting. That's why we all came here. We hope this is true. And in fact, we want to find out how we can own it. Because the minute we go out of this room, you walk by a mirror on the way out. And what's in the mirror? There it is. There's that body again. There's that feedback. And what do you do tomorrow morning when you first wake up tomorrow morning? There you are again. Is that a new wrinkle? Ooh. So I'm just trying to sober you up a little bit to recognize the addiction a little bit,
Yeah.
and then we'll make a full circle. We'll go. We'll be defining life here. But let's also understand. Let's understand what is already fully accepted as real. Death.
That's right. 100% guaranteed for most. Right?
Yeah. So let's just spend a few moments on the flowery topic of death. And just think about it a little bit with our meditation. Then we'll investigate what A Course in Miracles has to say about death.
Will we do better with lights on or on?
Off is better.
Yeah, your choice.
Okay.
Probably off is better.
Thank you. Better not to see.
Okay, bring your mind to that avoided topic of death. Be honest now. The only one who has anything to gain here is you. Were you to understand what you think death is, how real or unreal death really is to you. It's an often mislabeled and avoided and denied, but highly regarded topic. What is death? What does it mean? Silently to yourself. Ask yourself. And you may answer yourself quite honestly because nobody else is listening. What do you think death means? Think about your garden, nature. What is death? What role does death have in that picture? Is there such a thing as death? Happy Halloween. What is death? Anybody? Dictionary definition? What is it? Well, what would Webster say?
The end.
The end! Thank you. The end. Death, whatever else happens along the way, death is the end. The ego, I like to say that the ego is a sentence into which you can add many, many verbs, adjectives, make it as long as you like, but it's punctuated at the end with death. That's the puncture at the end of the sentence. That's what you're going to find. Yeah.
Happiness at last.
Sorry, well, yes and no, the end.
There's a sentence behind, but there's another sentence,
Not the book.
after that. So, why death is like a cycle.
Oh.
It's an ending, but then there's another beginning.
Aha.
Like in a garden. This year, plants die, but they will make the soil for the next year's garden.
Right.
So it's cyclical.
And in the tarot, the death card is a transition card.
So let's take the garden. Let's take the cyclical. So here's somebody who's willing to see beyond the end. And he says that corn stalk that wilted down when the season was over and got turned into the soil, it became the pumpkin the next season. Yeah? Cycle. But that part of this plant died and the other plant came up using some of the carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, phosphorus in it. Cycle. Well, it's living again, isn't it? It's living again. Oh.
It's
Yeah?
a transformation.
A transformation.
Rebirth.
Try to explain that to the cornstalk. It's all over for the corn.
The Course says in more than one place
Yeah.
about this death business. Actually, it says, if you can experience thus and so, total happiness, okay, just for example, right? Even for a moment, you can wipe away 3,000 years living in this damnable ego situation.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Sometimes it says only 1,000 years, but it gets heavier depending upon what you're trying to do, right? So that, to me, that implies that unless we break out of this egoic pattern, right, we've been very stuck for a long time. You can almost guarantee we're going to be very damn stuck for a long time coming.
Well, let's read that.
Unless we
Yes.
wake up.
Yes. So you will keep getting the same cycle over and over and over.
It's reincarnation.
It's a celebration. Yeah.
There's another life after that.
Recycling over and over and over.
But even in this life,
Yeah.
there's death,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I'm just thinking about when an image that came to my mind is when I was little.
Mm-hmm.
And that person, even though it's me,
Ah.
it's no longer me.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, you're constantly going through this process of
Metamorphosis.
Yeah, the Course says
constant.
to forget your past is to be reborn. And that little girl is no longer operating playing with the toys, and she was all worried about her make and bake oven or shake and bake oven. That's all gone. That's all gone. So you
the
were
memory's there.
Yes.
So what I'm just saying is, if all of it is me.
Yes.
In the moment.
Yes.
But then, because of memory, I can look back and say, oh, there is Cecilia when she's 5 or 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
After death, I can look back to this moment and say, there's Cecilia when she's, in her 50s.
Yes.
Right? But it's all one at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah.
It's just that you're kind of...
You're breaking it up into segments.
You're coming out of time.
Yes. Coming out of time.
Right? And so me looking at that little girl, I'm going to be looking at some, from another perspective back at me.
Yes.
And it's all the
I
same.
like what you're saying.
And how is it? See, the awakening comes. The awakening comes from recognizing that it's your existence, your life, is right now, completely right now, and perfectly right now. So that thoughts of the little girl, or of your ex-husband, or of your previous job, or of your next husband, would not actually cast their shadow on you now. Recognizing that those thoughts have no power over the now. So they're essentially dead. That little girl can't jump up and suddenly take you over. As much as you may be proud of what she did and how she...
It's just a thought in your mind.
Well, it's a thought in your mind. That's the point. It's a thought. Yeah. Yeah, but I like what you're saying, because there are, I think the Course describes it too somewhere. It does. That there's constant death with every tick of the clock. Every beat of your heart signals the death of the previous moment. It's gone.
It's not me.
That's already in the
It's
past.
time that's dying.
Right?
True.
But those whole thoughts that went with it are gone. So the essence is the past is over, it can touch me not. And the past keeps dying and dying and dying and dying and dying. In fact, science has shown that the way the human brain is able to keep sense of its different sense organs and the things that your legs are longer than your arms, so sensation comes at different speeds through your own body.
Yeah.
If you touch your toe, it seems like you just touched your toe, but in fact, it took the signal longer to go up your leg as it did up your arm. So the brain actually has an 80 millisecond lag. In order for the brain to compensate for the sensation that would otherwise be very confusing, where you touched your toe and your finger felt it, but your foot did not, until a little later.
Sort of like a Grateful Dead concert where the speakers are delayed.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So in order to compensate for that, so that everything's all nice and copacetic, you actually live with an 80 millisecond. Okay, 100 milliseconds is 1/10 of a second.
Otherwise it'd be like an echo.
Exactly. It'd be very confusing and disturbing. And so also with things like sound and ears, you actually use it with vision and sound as well. It's amazing what the body will do. Just make everything all copacetic. So it's all simple and as it should be. Well, we need an 80 millisecond buffer to do that. This came out on one of my science podcasts last month.
That's pretty interesting
So the difference
information.
between my fingertip and my toe is a tenth of a second. Give or take.
Well, actually, it's less at the nerve conduction speed, but for all sorts of other things, the body allows a buffer of 80 milliseconds. And a part of that gets used when you do that. Okay.
I know that your eyes and your ears process at
Yeah.
different speeds.
They do. And within limits, it seems like this exact same time. But you get beyond that limit, speed of sound, speed of light, and all that starts to accumulate, and you're beyond 80 milliseconds, and now things don't line up. Well, let's don't digress too much into this simple science. All I'm saying is that you already live in the past. All the time. Yeah, all the time. Okay, now.
We
Now.
perceive illusions.
What?
I said we perceive illusions.
Yes. Yes.
It's not quite the same as living in the past. You're defining life as that which happens after perception.
Let me say it this way. The ego and the world and your body will afford for you the past.
Well, what?
Quite afford for you, give you, hand you the past. Perception is all about the past.
Right.
Judgment is all about the past.
If I'm a prisoner in solitary,
Mm-hmm.
and I never get anything fresher than yesterday's newspaper, more often last week's newspaper,
Yeah.
and all.
Yeah.
That's you're defining my life.
Yes.
As
Yes.
as limited to what I know by receiving that late arriving newspaper.
Yes. And so the way the Course describes it is that our minds are preoccupied with past thoughts.
No question about that. But Marcia's, the end begs the end of what?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so if you're gonna know, a perfectly good definition, but the end of what, you gotta say define what life is.
Yes.
And there's problems because, I've got children,
Mm-hmm.
and they carry mine and their mother's DNA.
Mm-hmm.
So that information continues on after breath, spirit leaves me.
Yeah.
There was a discussion here about that dealt with kind of brain death awareness. Like what if I lost all memory of the previous self? Would that be the death of the previous self?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Kind of what you were talking
Or
about.
would it simply be a bisected life that has kind of two halves that don't communicate?
And the Course would just simply say you'd be reborn at that moment.
Right.
And your ego would, for a moment, have a break in continuity. You have no past. And a new ego would most likely rise up.
Oh.
Well, I have a death definition for your Halloween motif, which is that death is the fear against which all other fears are measured.
Nice.
So the expression, I'd rather be dead.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Nice.
People, supposedly based on opinion polling, a lot of people would are more afraid of public speaking than dying.
Yeah. They can't face it. They can't face
It's
it.
easy to say.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I imagine that given the choice, they would,
That's excellent,
really
David.
stand on a platform and feel foolish.
That's funny.
Yeah. You really nailed it. It's actually how Course in Miracles describes how we see death. It is the illusion by which all other illusions are measured.
Wow.
Or fear is the same thing. The fear against which all others would be measured.
So let's go with you suddenly lose all memory of your previous self.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's the end.
You get it in the end.
The short answer to what is death in that case, if you tell me that I will lose all memory of my previous self.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was that movie where the guy had such an unhappy affair of the heart that he underwent a procedure by which all previous memories are erased?
Right. Sunshine for the spotless mind.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Anyway, so if you ask me today what that's going to be like, the only honest answer, was that Tom Cruise? No.
Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey. It was Jim Carrey. So I'm Jim Carrey, and I asked, so what is that like? The only honest answer is I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, Dick, that's your line.
What's that?
He said, I don't know. He says you can't predict death because you won't be there to experience it.
Yeah, I don't know how to stop coughing right now.
You won't know.
I don't what?
It is, and you do experience it.
What do you think?
So Robert and Dick over there, they say that they...
Yes.
It's something so new that you wouldn't have a word for it, or a concept.
Let's see what the Course says about it. Everybody turn to the end of the Manual for Teachers. Page 66. And this will just be, you'll just have, an eighth of an inch of the book left when you get there. Very back of the book.
In the lessons, workbooks?
No, it's like a manual, so it's the very back of the book.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm sorry, what was the page?
page 66.
In the back of the book.
In the back. Yeah.
Stop 166. What is that?
It does have a page 666.
Just the word.
Yeah.
What is that?
Appropriate for Halloween. What is death?
Appropriate for Halloween.
Nick, you want to start? First paragraph?
Who?
Nick, all right? Would you like to read?
Death is the central dream from which all illusions stem. It is not madness to
Oops.
think of life as being born.
You got to read that one again. You got to get the sentence started right.
Death is the central dream from which all illusions stem. It is not madness to think of life as being born.
See, and he's actually, the course is catching you. But this book does it a lot. It'll phrase things with negatives.
Is it?
And so it says, is it not madness? To slow you down, forces you to sort of, because these sentences, you'll read through it saying,
Double negatives.
yeah, it is not madness, because that's how we phrase most of our sentences. But the course will flip that around, slow you down, because you'll say, wait, this doesn't make sense. And you'll discover the message. So read it now. Is it not madness?
Is it not madness to think of life as being born, aging, losing vitality, and dying in the end? We have asked this question before, but now we need to consider it more carefully. It is the one fixed, unchangeable belief of the world that all things in it are born only to die. This is regarded as the way of nature, not to be raised to question, but to be accepted as the natural law of life. The cyclical, the changing and unsure, the undependable, the unsafe, waxing and waning in a certain way for a certain path. All this is taken as the will of God, and no one asks if a benign creator could will this.
For the love of God,
Thanks.
not just for
Please continue.
this is being bricked up.
Yeah.
The setting.
Did I pick it up?
Yeah, as paragraph 2, David.
And no one asked if a benign creator could will this. In this perception of the universe as God created it, it would be impossible to think of him as loving. For who has decreed that all things pass away, ending in dust and disappointment and despair, can but be feared? Or who has decreed all that can but be feared? He holds your little life in his hand, but by a thread, ready to break it off without regret or care, perhaps today. Or if he waits, yet is the ending certain. Who loves such a God knows not of love, because he is denied that life is real. Death has become life's symbol. His world is now a battleground where contradiction reigns and opposites make endless war. Where there is death, is peace impossible.
Death is the symbol of the fear of God. His love is blotted out in the idea which holds it from awareness like a shield held up to obscure the sun. The grimness of the symbol is enough to show that it cannot coexist with God. It holds an image of the Son of God in which he is laid to rest in devastation's arms, where worms wait to greet him and to last a little while by his destruction. Mm-hmm. Yet the worms as well are doomed to be destroyed as certainly, and so do all things live because of death. Devouring is nature's law of life. God is insane, and fear alone is real.
Mm-hmm. There's a thing or two about death there.
Well, that's what we think.
Yeah. This is just what's.
They're just setting us up to see our own thoughts.
Yeah, take a look at the way that your dream is operating.
That's our nightmare.
Yeah. Don't worry, when you die, the worms will be there. But they'll die too. That's just the way it works here, that's all. Let's continue, Robert.
The curious belief that there is part of dying things that may go on apart from what will die does not proclaim a loving God nor reestablish any grounds for trust. If death is real for anything, there is no life. Death denies life. But if there is reality in life, death is denied. No compromise in this is possible. There is either a God of fear or one of love. The world attempts 1,000 compromises and will attempt 1,000 more. Not one can be acceptable to God's teachers because not one could be acceptable to God. He did not make death because he did not make fear. Both are equally meaningless to him.
The reality of death is firmly rooted in the belief that God's Son is a body. And if God created bodies, death would indeed be real. But God would not be loving. There is no point at which the contrast between the perception of the real world and that of the world of illusions becomes more sharply evident. Death is indeed the death of God, if he is love. And now his own creation must stand in fear of him. He is not Father, but destroyer. He is not creator, but avenger. Terrible his thoughts and fearful his image. To look on his creations is to God.
And the last to be overcome will be death, of course. Without the idea of death, there is no world. All greeds will end with this one. This is salvation's final goal, the end of all illusions. But in death are all illusions born. What can be born of death and still have life? But what is born of God and can still die? The inconsistencies, the compromises, the rituals the world fosters in its vain attempts to cling to death and yet to think love real are mindless magic, ineffectual and meaningless. God is, and in him all created things must be eternal. Do you not see that otherwise he has an opposite, and fear could be as real as love?
Teacher of God, your one assignment could be stated thus: accept no compromise in which death plays a part. Do not believe in cruelty, nor let attack conceal the truth from you. What seems to die has but been misperceived and carried to illusion. Now it becomes your task to let the illusion be carried to the truth. Be steadfast, but in this be not deceived by the reality of any changing form. Truth neither moves nor wavers, nor sinks down to death and dissolution. And what is the end of death? Nothing but this: the realization that the Son of God is guiltless now and forever. Nothing but this. But do not let yourself forget it is not less than this.
Period. Thank you. Yeah, so how about that? It certainly, takes death seriously because we do, from where we are as bodies. We take death so seriously. So the Course does too, generously. But look how it treats it in this paragraph, this beautiful paragraph 6. It takes a quote from the Bible. And he says, and the last to be overcome will be death. Of course, without the idea of death, there is no world. He'll say this about 3 or 4 times. Watch this. And all dreams will end with this one dream of death. When the dream of, therefore, right, logically, when the dream of death ends, there ends all the other dreams.
Aspects of the earth and everything.
The world
Right.
requires that. That's how the world's built, turns
So
out.
if we didn't fear death, we wouldn't have all these other fears?
Yeah. Because fear itself is of loss of some sort. So by association, because losing something is the end of it, that's death. A little loss is death. It's a little death. It's just a little death. When your car burned in the parking lot. Lost. A little death. So what he's catching is that it is not, it's more, the concept is more important than the description or the definition. The concept that death could be real. See, we just assume it is. We assume it's a real concept. And we're trying to say, well, it doesn't apply. Because I'm spiritual. Because I'm going to go beyond the body. So, I won't die. Well, good for you. The Course is calling us to the mat. That there's even the word die is appropriate in any sentence. You see, if death is real, then some things that exist stop. Well, as it tells us in lesson 133, yeah, anything valuable does not stop.
The ego stops.
Well, it turns out we learn that the ego doesn't stop when your body dies, because the body does not carry the ego.
It's in the mind.
Right? In fact, the same mind made the body, controls the body, commands the body, so that it can have its wishes fulfilled. You separate from him. We don't have to prove it. We can just see it. So there's separation. Cornerstone of the ego is that this body is real. And it proves itself, like I say, with the mirror and with your hunger and with your I don't know, broken wrist, burned hand. I don't know what you did to your hand.
He had surgery.
Oh, a little surgery. Yeah.
He had to fix the body.
Good.
The body had to go to the repair shop. The body shop. That's right. So, but death isn't real. It's the illusion of the fear that we dreamt up that it's real. And we are spirit, so we can never die because we're not a body, meaning we are spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And the body leaves us. Who we are is spirit, and spirit lives on.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to clarify that because they talked so much about what wasn't true. I just wanted to get out what was true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good, thanks. Yeah, we don't want to drown in all this death. Well, we call this a spiritual meeting. Certainly. You'll find a drinking device in the bathroom.
You got a quarter?
Yeah.
No, he's teasing.
Yeah, of course we don't want to drown in all this talk of death. After all, we came here for a spiritual meeting, didn't we? And the Course describes a miracle as going from the material to the spiritual. Yes, yes.
Are not humans having a spiritual experience or spirits having a human experience?
Yes, indeed. That's beautiful. Yes, yes, yes.
We're not humans having a spiritual experience. Or spirits
I love
having
that.
a human experience.
Reminds me who we are. Thank you. Huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right orientation. Right, right. Okay, so look at paragraph 6.
It's a more perspective of not being real.
Yeah, it just sort of encapsulizes everything.
Yeah, it's like right thinking.
The other thing that,
Yeah.
that reminds me of is when you say, fear, I'm at home, fear is the stranger. That's another one of those things. So I'm not the fear is the stranger.
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I said both those things. because I'm not separate from whoever did.
Yes, so you own it. Yes. Yes. So, paragraph 6, he says, all dreams will end with this one dream of death. This is salvation's final goal. The end of all illusions. Well, really?
That's a big thing.
That
to
seems
say.
important.
The end of all illusions, all pain, all suffering is the end of all illusions.
What's the end of all illusions?
Getting over the idea that there's such thing as death.
Well, it's pretty simple, isn't it?
The world that we know.
That's
But
pretty potent.
promises us we'll never fear anything again if we could not fear death.
Oh, how about
Is
that?
that right?
How about
Is
that?
that what it's saying?
Yeah. You can see.
That's a big
Yeah.
promise.
Yeah.
It's a biggie.
Yeah.
I mean, there won't be any more dreaming of
Unfortunately, it's like telling an alcoholic, just put the bottle down and all your problems are over. Is that it? Yeah, just don't drink again. Oh! That's what Wendy said. All you have to do is just put down the illusion of death and you're good. You're good to go. That's what she just said. Which is true.
But that's what it's saying. That's what I'm trying to clarify.
Yeah. Now, now also, the belief in death, and that's a shortcut just to say that. Stop the belief in death, and then, all the things that are attached to death go too. Now, the reality of it is that there is a whole thought system that supports death and supported by death. Just like there's a whole thought system that's driving the alcoholic to drink. It's not because he really likes the taste of booze. There's a lot of other things. Well, we used to have an AA Pumbaa here. I wish she was here now. Remember, I forget her name.
Who's this?
Claudia, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she really knew her stuff. There's a whole structure that gets relieved by the alcohol.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
It gets relieved by, numbed by it. And that's what drives one to abuse the alcohol. It's not enough to taste it. They need to abuse it. So also is this addiction to the ego and this idolizing of death. It's not enough just to put it down and say, there's no more death. I'm good to go. I decided. I wrote it down in my notebook today. Underlined it 4 times. There's no more death. Same, you imagine the alcoholic who says, I'm just going to stop drinking today, right now.
Wow.
And all of the things that empowered the alcoholic to abuse the alcohol are still there.
Wow.
So
Turns
I'll
out.
I'll just invent death by a different name.
So
Well said.
I'd lick alcohol.
Oh, manifest, definitely.
I'll just what say again?
Well said. I'll just switch to cigarettes, coffee, gambling, sex, heroin, who knows what else.
So is it the things that we value in this world
Anger.
that we're afraid to lose and let go of that gives us the fear of death? Like people that we love, the life that we enjoy?
No, not at all. Not at all, actually.
Because we don't want to we're afraid that we won't have
No,
things anymore?
no, it's not the things that you like that give you the fear of death.
No.
I understand your logic.
Yeah.
But no, that's not it at all. There's people who don't like anything and they still fear death.
So what is it?
Yeah. You see, death is a concept that's fully baked into what we think is true about life. That it ends. You only have so many breaths. I mean, where's your great-great-great-grandfather now? And your great-great-grandmother now?
Yeah.
I said great-great because there's a few young people here.
Retired.
Yeah, retired, she says. Way retired. They're in the dirt.
In the air, in the water.
Yeah, they just all disassembled and going on with this recycling business. Yeah.
I got an amazing experience. I don't know if it's interesting to share, but I'm going to share it.
Mm-hmm.
My dad died when I was a baby. He died before my 2nd birthday. And have you ever had the experience of feeling like there's another person in the room and there isn't? Mm-hmm. He was around till I was 7 or 8, and I'm sure it was my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I could feel him, and I was scared because I was a kid. I was a kid. I didn't understand it at the time. But as an adult, I came to understand that it was him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
felt the presence.
Oh yeah, really strong.
Yes.
There was just no question. It was just is.
So that's easy for you when the Course says that there is no death.
So you know that there's no death because you know that your dad's presence. You felt his
I've had
energy.
that experience. I can't.
You can't deny that. You
I
felt
don't
it.
deny.
It's real.
Experienced it. It's real to me. It was real to me.
Mm-hmm.
When you share with me, now it's real for me.
In chapter, I think it's 6, it talks about the crucifixion.
That feels my thing.
And Jesus says, teach not that I died, but that I live in you. You just brought your father alive. He lives in you. Some way. Right now. Yeah. Turns out. Okay, look at this paragraph 6.
Oh, thank you.
Page 67. Section 27 in the Manual for Teachers. And he says, the end of all illusions, yes, and in death are all illusions born. See, with this concept now of death, this is the thing, is that you try to get into a great Buddhist Vipassana practice where you let go of the world, and Wendy was just talking about it's all the things that all things we want so much that give us this fear of death.
What is it?
It isn't actually.
What is it?
Yeah, it's the idea of death itself.
What do you mean?
The concept that death.
Oh, because we see people.
Would you tell me again what death means?
The end.
The end. Thank you. See how simple?
Because we've seen people like.
Which end?
Oh, the death of the body.
Uh-huh.
The end.
Okay, all right, so it's death of the body.
And we are not a body, we're spirit.
Well, that's right, we're spirit. And if
So
you got that...
The body dies. That's
you,
a fact.
Yeah, if you
But
got
it goes on the
it,
ground
Yeah.
and other things.
if you really got it, and you have,
it's
if you're
the
identifying,
vegetable garden.
if you're identifying with spirit, you're free.
Yeah.
There really won't be any harm. You would not ever experience loss of any type from the body because you're identifying with spirit.
I see.
So in fact, you're simply enjoying now. All perceptions are from a new perspective.
So if we know that we're
Are you there?
spirit,
Are you there? So this was important. Yes, indeed, if you know your spirit, you're free. That's why we're all here. What we got to do is we got to catch the addiction, see? You got to catch the addiction that says, but I'm not really spirit now. I want to be spirit. I want to read about spirit. I want to study spirit. And I want to remember that I'm spirit. Good. Certainly good. How do I do it? How can I wake up to being spirit right now?
I have a suggestion.
Yeah?
Starting with lesson 201 and going 18 days consistently in saying, I am not a body, I am free, I am still as God created me. Just follow the instruction offered. Have a taste of it. Quite
I am
nice.
not a body, I am free. I am still as God created me.
I catch myself doing it in the middle of the night or when I wake up, sometimes in the morning, and I'll start reciting that, and it's
In the introduction to that, it says, you know what, you'd be well to apply this now to the rest of your days.
yeah.
Wow.
So,
You
right.
can't remember your lesson for the day, just do that one.
Yeah, other than that, it's meaningless. He just said, yeah, you're right, Dick. Right, very important.
And you know what I was thinking when a little baby's in the mommy's belly and they're giving birth, mother's giving birth, that must feel like death to the baby. She's in this nice warm water, swimming around, protected, nutrients and everything, and all of a sudden, you know, that must feel like death to her.
The
baby.
baby.
No, but I mean the
Big change, huh?
experience of that change. Which
What do you
I mean,
They don't have
I mean, when you think
language.
about how when we die, you know, somebody's laying in bed and there's no pulse like that. I mean, it could be the same feeling like when somebody's giving birth, except they don't know it, but I mean that's the same kind of thing. It's a transition.
So look at
to another state.
So Wendy, read sentence 7 for us in paragraph 6, because it's what you're talking about.
And the last to be overcome will be death.
Okay, so now jump ahead to sentence 7.
What can be born of death and still have life?
So when he's talking about a huge change occurs, loss. You think of the poor kid and he's already experiencing a death. From death to what looks like life. The minute the baby is born, it begins to die. Fair? The minute it's born, it begins to die. See, that's the story that we're living under, why I think we're all here. There must be a better way to think of life or God or love than what the world's been teaching me to this point.
That's a terrible fear thought.
Okay? Indeed. Yeah. Thanks for getting that straight. But what is born of God, what is born of God? Forever, thank you. Source of all.
Eternity.
God, source of all. All that is God. Not a guy with a beard up in it. No, that's not what we think about here in this book. No. But God is, as the Course describes it, all in all. How much is that?
Everything.
It's all.
All leaves nothing out.
All, including that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. No exceptions. All in all. Now you've got a taste. You got a taste of what God is. And so all the definitions start to really fall away. Any description now is much too weak. Okay. Now, the inconsistencies, the compromises, and the rituals the world fosters in its vain attempts to cling to death, and yet to think love real. Are mindless magic, ineffectual and meaningless. Now that brings us back into where we're reading earlier in the book. We're talking about a special relationship in this pursuit of love. He throws it back in here. I'll read it again. The inconsistencies, the compromises, and the rituals the world fosters in its vain attempts to cling to death, and yet to think love real.
Okay, how ironic.
How ironic. These are mindless magic, ineffectual and meaningless. God is, God is.
All's well with the world, this God is.
And in Him all created things must be eternal.
Getting better.
Yeah. Now, let's go up a paragraph and dig in a little deeper. Paragraph 5. He says, the reality, and he puts it in quotes, but he knows that we're so drunk on this that he has to talk about it as if it was real. But he puts it in quotes. The reality of death is firmly rooted in the belief. Indeed, it's in the body and all things alive. The reality of death is firmly rooted in the belief that God's Son is a body. And if God created bodies, well, death would be real. Well, there's a clue. God did not create bodies. That's why we get thrown out of the church. This book often. Wait a minute. God made the body. God made the beautiful nature and the world. Now,
how about this statement? God is in everything.
I see.
I see.
Yes. And why is God in everything I see? According to the next lesson.
Because God is in my mind.
Because God is in my mind.
So what we see is what our thoughts tell us. There's nothing out there that we see. We see what our thoughts are telling us, and then we project it out.
It's lesson 30.
Yeah.
So if we change our mind, we see things differently.
All thoughts are images.
So, in fact, that statement is not correct. God is not in everything. It's simply the falsity of our projection, and we're producing it and think that's it, and it isn't.
Is that true?
Well,
God is in everything.
Well, these are early lessons, and we're starting out with kindly and gently that we actually see it all with the eyeballs. There's a post, I see it. I mean, you know those literary lessons? They say, look, go get a pencil. He says, take a pencil and say, I have given this pencil all the meaning it has for me. It says, hold up the book of the pencil, doesn't it? It says, what about a button?
That's all good meaning.
It says, go find a button. This is the only place in the course where it actually uses details.
Yes, way up front.
And then it's very specific. It's absolute detail. It wants you to take the zipper, the pencil, the button, the cup, the table and the chair, and the hand. He's all over the place. But he says, be as indiscriminate as you can. But use these details. And then as the course progresses, as we start to move forward with your enlightenment, it'll go through saying, by the way, you don't see anything as it is now. That bottle, that cup, that button, that tie. It's just what you know about it.
And that upsets us, by the way.
It's all from the
It's all from our own point of
It's
view.
not how it really is now, right? And then as you go a little further, then it shows how you're upset by this. You go a little further, after you've been determined to see, he introduces the idea that everything you think you see is an image you have made. Like, whoa. Now we're starting to float a little bit. Now we're
So I
starting.
have thoughts, I believe, and I project them out
Yes.
to the world and say they're true because this is how I see it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's only because it's how I see it. If somebody else had the same experience, they might see it totally different.
That's right.
So it's not necessarily the truth. It's just the way I see it.
Exactly.
And I'm assuming that other people see it. It must be the way it must be seen. But it's really only my.
The same with
Right.
all the sensory systems, including hearing.
We're putting
If-
a lot of trust in our senses.
If you don't like how you see it, or if you're having trouble with something, what's the solution?
Change
Get
your mind.
glasses or get a shot from the doctor.
Change
your
that
mind.
thing? Go out and change that thing?
No.
That's hard.
If you
Have you tried it? It's hard.
So,
I've tried to control
It's hard.
my world. It just brings you to suffering.
Yeah.
But you have to change my mind about my world.
Mhm.
Then my world changes. Because if I change my mind, then I'm projecting out a whole different story of what it means.
That's how it is.
So the whole reason why nothing is how we see it is because all we think about is our past thoughts. Every thought we have in our mind is from our past. There's nothing. There's no thought that we have that's here right now.
I'll go one further and say every thought is about what we thought our past was.
What we thought we thought.
Well, imagine that I'm taking shorthand, and I can't remember everything, so I take those little weird shorthand squiggles about what I think is happening, and then I review those over and over, and I keep looking at those squiggles and saying, that's my life, that was my life, that was my life. And A, that wasn't my life. B, the squiggle is not what happens. The squiggle is what I wrote down.
It's what you translate.
There's that famous painting, it's one of the surrealists, that's a big pipe, a big, smoker's pipe. And on the painting is written, this is not a pipe. It's a big painting of a very photorealistic pipe. And it says, this is not a pipe.
Probably a painting.
And you're going, well, damn, it really is a pipe. But it's not even a painting, it's an image in my eyeball of a painting of a pipe.
Yeah.
That's why we call it a coffee cup, because we have this idea and this image in our past of a cup with a round lid, with a handle, and we call it a coffee cup. So now we have an experience from our past. I see what you're saying. That's great.
Yeah, so I can almost taste the coffee.
This is not a pipe. I like
But
that.
none of that is real.
As soon as you experience the moment, it's over.
So everything is an image we made in our mind,
Well,
and we project onto the world and to everybody in our life and say, this is the way it is.
who was it that was saying that our image of life is all about the words we put on it? Here, just a few minutes ago. Was it Robert? Somebody. Maybe it was me.
Well, somebody said that babies don't think, and I said they think, they just don't have language.
Wendy was saying that everything that you see is how you see it.
Right.
Because how you see it. As we say all the time, right? How you see it is how you see it.
Yeah.
It's a very little circle.
Yeah.
The circle.
So how could you ever have a fight or disagree with anybody? Because just how we see it is just how we see it. It's not right or wrong. And the way the other person sees it is how they see it. It's not right or wrong. It's just how they see it. So there's no reason to ever fight because it's all in the illusion.
That's why you can't judge somebody else.
So how can we argue about being right about it's just the way our mind thought it up and how somebody else's mind thought it up was just two different thoughts.
That's all.
And neither one is right or wrong. It's just a different dream that we made
Kiss
up.
and make up.
Yeah.
All right.
Kiss and make up.
All right, paragraph 5.
My parents would
Isn't
say,
that
get
true?
naked
That's the
and,
whole truth.
and kiss and
Okay,
make
now
up.
the meeting's starting to degrade with that. Now, paragraph 5. Paragraph 5. There's no point in which the contrast
Okay, I said that.
between the perception of the real world and that of the world of illusions becomes more sharply evident. Now we got a contrast of the real world and the world of illusions. Sharp contrast, and in the world of illusions, death is real. And what's the definition of death, Marcia?
Fine.
The end.
I love what she said.
That's it.
She's so cute.
The end. What? So what does it mean if there's no death?
She knows her lines.
No end.
That's right.
Right? Okay, now, so there's a contrast right there for you. The real world, no end. The world of illusions, the end. And it's coming. Indeed. It's that simple.
And actually, for a lot of people, both are coming.
What?
Because eventually, sometime along this stream here, we're all going to have to wake up and go home.
Yes. Yes, that's the real world.
Well, wake up and behold.
Yeah, nice. Nice.
Oh, I like
Nice,
that.
Cecilia.
Yeah.
Cecilia, that was good.
Yeah.
Because I already forgot.
Yeah, she's drinking the
I'll
potion.
be. We'll be
Wake up
together.
and
No place to go. No space, no time. You are home. That's great. That's good.
nice.
Good. Now, look at this next sentence.
What number?
Because this is one of those sentences. This is sentence 5. In paragraph 5, it says, death is indeed the death of God, comma, if he is love. What?
Yeah, talk more about that sentence, because that doesn't compute to me.
If he is loving.
Yeah, that's kind of.
Dick, why don't you bark that
Oh,
sentence
because
out
if
for
God
us?
is loving, there would be no death.
Yeah.
So, if there really is a death, then there really is no God.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
That's it.
But there is no death, so there is a God.
What part? What does death mean again? The end. What part of end?
And
What part of? Huh? Yeah. How would you reconcile? Now remember, the word love here is when he got it. The word love here is capitalized. What part of true love ends?
Pardon?
What part of true love ends?
None.
Nothing ever.
Nothing ever ends.
Thank you.
True love is eternal forever.
Yeah. That's it.
Only conditional love ends.
It's who we are.
And so, that's why the word God is in the same sentence
Yeah.
as the capital L, love,
Right.
because each define the other. And in this instance, it has to do with the end. And neither of them has an end. Love with a capital L is, well, God is. And then we cease to speak. It does not compute in this world, does not compute in this life, does not compute even in this room. Unless we really come together and we start to leave behind the limited way of thinking. And we're going to transcend end. Transcend end. And yet that brings a sense of peace to you.
Yeah.
That's the right direction.
As long as somebody be there to guide me.
So we're all going to quit believing in death.
Mm-hmm. Even though you see it, but you're seeing it, you will now have a vision that goes right through this dance of death.
Sweet.
Because you will still see your pets die and your friends die and the tree in the front yard is going to die. All that you'll still see that with your eyes.
Well, that's the story we have in our mind about it. Might not be true.
What's the difference now? Yesterday, before Course in Miracles, you saw something die, and it was the end. Now, because of this very sentence is all you need. This very sentence is all you need to have a transcendence of death.
What is that again?
This is sentence 5 in paragraph 5.
Death is indeed the death of God if He is love.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We just define love. We just define love.
God.
And no end. See, death says end of love, end of God. No death means God does not end, love does not end.
And that's the truth.
It's the truth.
It's eternal forever.
It's the truth.
So God is love, and God created us as Himself. So we are love.
Mm-hmm.
So we are eternal because
Mm-hmm.
God is eternal.
As Ray said, we are a thought in the mind of God. And if God is forever, we are forever. Okay? So,
Several weeks ago.
Oh,
yeah, several weeks, right, several weeks ago.
I
Yeah.
feel a presence in the room.
Yeah.
It's still sad though. That is sad.
Yeah.
It leaves us.
Yes.
You know, like when something we love that is.
Yes. Indeed. Tears may flow.
Yeah.
Huh?
Tears will flow.
Yeah.
Because we never
Yes.
see them again as a body.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're happy we loved them when we did.
Uh-huh. Now,
You
Marcia
know,
might challenge you, and I would challenge you too, because the death I've experienced in my life, I discovered that crazy episode, the tears came, and there's no more, but somehow that which appeared to die is now complete and even more present.
True.
There is no
Tell me about
longer
that.
a limit.
Right.
This, what appeared to die,
So true.
when it was alive, would come and go. But when it apparently died, it's now constantly, evenly present.
Tell me about that.
But,
Yeah, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't
What,
have to
tell
have
me
the
about
same-
that, Andrew. I want to know about that.
Because while your loved one is alive, you wait for them to tell you what they are and how they are. And all the while, you're deciding what it means to you, so you're just making it up all the time. But when they die, they are what you have. You have what you remember and what you think of them, and that now is their reality. And guess what? It always was.
What do you mean?
Nothing's changed. You made up your mom.
It's old, yeah.
Okay? You gave her all the meaning she has for you every day when she was alive,
Yeah.
and every day since that she's been dead.
Yeah.
She has only the meaning that you've afforded her.
Wow, now I know what you're saying.
Every day she was alive,
I gave
and
her the meaning,
every day since she was dead.
whatever she meant to me.
Yes. Now the difference is she can no longer call you up and add anything, because she's not. You don't have a definition of her, because any day she could come
Everything
over
stopped now.
and say, "Guess what, Wendy? I've decided I've changed my mind about you entirely. I got news for you."
I can't
What,
say-
Mom? What, Mom? Now what? It was the milkman. That's who your father is. Mom! She changed you, she changed she. I didn't think you slept with the milkman. I thought you loved Dad. Okay, now, oh my gosh, it's all changed. Okay?
Okay, so she can't add anything to my thoughts. So my thoughts are who I made her to be in my mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now how is that different from every day she was alive?
No different.
No different.
Wait.
You always gave your mom all the meaning she had for you.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Okay? So now when somebody, my personal experience is,
Whether her body's there or not,
right,
I'm living with the idea of who Mom is in my mind.
exactly. It's different from your brother, different for your dad, different for apparently the milkman. It's different for each, right? But
what-
you have yours.
But how does it become whole when they're gone? I don't get it.
What has she added? So now there appears to be a variable has changed. This changing phone calls from her and actions and activities from her.
You can't come and upset the apple cart of your concept anymore.
Right. And for me, magically, in the deaths in my life, I've got this wonderful sense of peace and acceptance. Mm-hmm. For now, this being is complete.
In your mind.
In my mind. It's always, yeah. And it's just beautiful. And now I hold this being complete in my mind everywhere I go. And somehow, I don't know, it just feels very now restful, complete,
really?
Loving. I'm not waiting for something else to show up. I have it all. It's a wonderful, beautiful.
Gosh.
It's a wonderful experience. I don't know. Anybody else have anything like that? Yeah, you recently had a death. Yeah. Okay, now, so look at this wonderful sentence. This is one of those sentences in A Course in Miracles. You know there are several. That is the essence of how A Course in Miracles works.
No, it's complete.
And that is, there'll be a mysterious sentence that doesn't quite make sense, but when you read it a few times, you kind of feel something, and you go back to read it again. What is that sentence trying to say? And here it is. It says, death is indeed the death of God, comma, if He is love. Now, first pass, I say, yeah, that's right. And then I say, what? What did it just say? This is a powerful, powerful sentence.
It's turning it around.
That has multiple levels of instruction. It has definitions of some of the biggest mysteries you'll ever encounter. That's the idea. Now she's there.
So that's what it's trying to do. It's trying to flip your thinking around.
Yeah, but do you like the sentence? Cecilia, read it for us.
Oh. Okay, death is indeed the death of God, if He is love.
Now, don't tell me what that sentence means. Just tell me how it feels to you.
I don't know. It's complicated for me.
Do you have a desire?
Yes.
Do you have a desire to look into it?
Death is the death of God, if He is love.
Is it?
I don't know. I think it'll probably come to me.
Well, the thing is, if there's really such thing as death,
No, I don't want to
God
explain
would
it.
be love.
Hold on, Wendy. I don't
Because
want to
God
define it.
wouldn't
Wendy, hold on.
do that to
Wendy,
us.
she's going through a process.
Oh.
She's going through a process right now.
I'm sorry. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So let me point that out. So good. So now this sentence has been constructed to do exactly what I see you experiencing.
Tweak your mind.
Stop you in your tracks. Draw you in. It's not read like a novel. You can't read past that. Oh, there's some nice words in that sentence. Problem is you got to stop and say, geez, they just killed God. And yet, look at these beautiful capital letters. Look where capital love is in this sentence. This would start the inquiring mind to circle on that sentence a little bit. It says, death is indeed the death of God, comma, if God is love. Focusing on death, causing us to look at death and the power that death would have were it real. Death of
No God.
Well, that's pretty powerful.
No love.
That's why it's in this book. That's why we're studying it. That's why it's many, many, many times mentioned in A Course in Miracles, because, not because of what dies now, but because you believe death is. You believe things die. You believe that the idea of death is real. Not what dies, okay? Let's get past that now. Now we're past that. The dog and the body and whatever. No. Catch yourself. It's the concept that death
If there is such thing as death.
Right.
If there is such thing as death, if you added that to the sentence,
Yes.
death is indeed the death of God.
Yes.
Because it's like saying a loving God would only love, and He wouldn't destroy and cause an end to something. He wouldn't destroy what He created. So if you're really going to have the end, then there must be no God. You can't have both. There's no duality. You can't have a loving God that created his children and then would put an end to it. So
It's just to find God. And dropped in the middle of this paragraph about death and illusion is a capital L, love.
Yeah, that sentence really makes you
Should
stop.
raise your eyebrows. Because he's got an opportunity now to really show the contrast and how the illusion has us drunk and in the opposite direction of love.
Yeah.
So he puts it right there. Switcheroo. Look, if death is real, you don't get love. And from his perspective, he is where he's in a perspective of complete acknowledgement of love.
So he is the one we need to fear, and he is our destroyer if we really believe in death.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's read more. So flip back about a couple hundred pages into the workbook to lesson 167. 167 in the workbook, which page 300 and 318. So you're about, there's about, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch from the back of the book. It's not very far from where you were really.
Page 318.
But it's page 318 in the workbook.
You got it.
Okay? Where we leave off? Oh, why don't you start for us again, Nick?
Wendy was
But Nick reads so nice. Okay. Lesson 167, page 318. There is one life, and that I share with God. There are not different kinds of life, for life is like the truth. It does not have degrees. It is the one condition in which all that God created share. Like all his thoughts, it has no opposite. There is no death, because what God created shares his life. There is no death, because an opposite to God does not exist. There is no death, because the Father and the Son are one. Beautiful. The truth is so wonderful.
In this world, there appears to be a state that is life's opposite. You call it death. Yet we have learned that the idea of death takes many forms. It is the one idea which underlies all feelings that are not supremely happy. It is the alarm to which you give response of any kind that is not perfect joy. All sorrow, loss, anxiety, and suffering and pain, even a little sigh of weariness, a slight discomfort, or the merest frown, acknowledge death, and thus deny you live.
Wow.
You ready?
Those are all the different forms of fear of death.
Yeah.
You think that death is of the body, yet it is but an idea, irrelevant to what is seen as physical. A thought is in the mind. It can be then applied as the mind directs it, but its origin is where it must be changed if change occurs. Ideas have not their source, or ideas leave not their source. The emphasis on this course is placed on the idea that it is due to its centrality in our attempts to change your mind about yourself. It is the reason you can heal. It is the cause of your living. It is why you cannot die. It is truth. Its truth established, you will make God.
I love the way he reads.
Death is the thought that you are separate from your Creator. It is the belief conditions change, emotions alternate. It is the belief conditions change, emotions alternate because of causes you cannot control, you did not make, and you can never change. It is the fixed belief ideas can leave their source and take on qualities the source does not contain, becoming different from their origin, apart from it in kind as well as distance, time, and form.
Metaphysics. Now, this next sentence Lisa's going to start with is very important.
You hear where the light is. Death is the thought that you are separate from your
Wait.
Creator.
That's repeated.
Wait, next one?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Death cannot come from life. Ideas remain united to their source. They can extend all that their source contains. In that, they can go far beyond themselves, but they cannot give birth to what was never given them. As they are made, so will their making be. As they were born, so will they then give birth. And where they come from, there they will return.
That's just the facts, folks. That's just the simple math. That sentence. You see the circle she talked many times. All right, let's continue.
The mind can think it sleeps, but that is all. It cannot change what is its waking state. It cannot make a body, nor a body within a body. What is alien to the mind does not exist because it has no source. The mind creates all things that are and cannot give them attributes it lacks, nor change its own eternal mindful state. It cannot make the physical. What seems to die is but the sign of mind asleep.
Pass.
The opposite of life can only be another form of life. As such, it can be reconciled with what created it, because it is not opposite in truth. Its form may change. It may appear to be what it is not. Yet mind is mind, awake or sleeping. It is not its opposite in anything created, nor in what it seems to make when it believes it sleeps.
God creates only mind awake. He does not sleep, and his creations cannot share what he gives not, nor make conditions which he does not share with them. The thought of death is not the opposite to thoughts of life. Forever unopposed by opposites of any kind, the thoughts of God remain forever changeless, and with the power to extend forever changelessly, but yet within themselves, for they are everywhere. That's a tongue twister.
Yes. You ready, Wendy?
Oh, still reading hers here. What seems to be the opposite of life is merely sleeping. When the mind elects to be what it is not, and to assume an alien power which it does not have, a foreign state it cannot enter, or a false condition not within its source, it merely seems to go to sleep a while. It dreams of time, an interval in which what seems to happen never has occurred. The changes wrought are substanceless, and all events are nowhere. When the mind awakes, it but continues as it always was.
Did you hear that? You're dreaming of time and an interval, things happen but never occurred. When the mind goes into a foreign state that it can't actually enter. This is what dreams are. This is what sleeping is. You go into a state you can't actually enter. You make it up, smoke it up, and then read that last sentence again now. It says, when the mind awakes, it but continues as it always was.
Yeah. And I just wanted to make a point that they're not only talking about sleeping when you close your eyes and you go to bed at night, but they're also talking about sleeping when, during the day, when we're just dreaming up thoughts that aren't necessarily true, which I do all the time, because that's how I see things. I see things from my own mind, my own perspective. And so that's also considered dreaming. It's not just when you close your eyes at night and go to bed.
That's right. That's right. We're drawing the analogy to your what you call a waking state. Could just be, as the Course
That's
described
like every thought I have, I'm dreaming of.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all fantasy. turns out. It takes a lot of mind correction in order to have any taste of truth, because you see yourself sleeping with your eyes closed and dreaming with your eyes closed, not with your eyes open.
What about those lucid dreams?
What? Lucid dreams. Yeah.
When you're awake and you're dreaming.
Yes.
And that's sort of what we're reaching for now.
Yes, indeed.
Oh.
Yes. The lucid dream.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. Well said. Indeed. Okay, let us today be children of the truth and not deny our holy heritage. Our life is not as we imagine it. Who changes life because he shuts his eyes, or makes himself what he is not because he sleeps, and sees in dreams an opposite to what he is? He will not ask for death. We will not ask for death in any form today. Nice. Nor will we let imagined opposites to life abide even an instant where the thought of life eternal has been set by God himself. Speaking of sleep. Would you like to read?
I was going to say, Nick, you're up, but he was
He's on the ceiling.
11.
Oh, 11.
His holy home we strive to keep today as he established it, and willed it be forever and forever. He is the Lord of what we think today, and in his thoughts, which have no opposite, we understand there is one life, and that we share with him, with all creation, with their thoughts as well. Whom he created in unity of life, that cannot separate in death, and leave the source of life from where it came.
We share one life because we have one source, the source from which perfection comes to us, remaining always in the holy minds which he created perfect. And as we were, so are we now, and will forever be. A sleeping mind must awake, as it sees its own perfection mirroring the Lord of life so perfectly, it fades into what is reflected there. And now it is no more a mere reflection. It becomes the thing reflected, and the light which makes reflection possible. No vision is now needed, for the awakened mind is one that knows its source, itself, its holiness.
Wow. Can we read that again?
Oh,
I
yeah.
have to read exactly.
This is the atonement. This beautiful paragraph.
I want to hear that.
Lisa, you want to read it for us?
I want to remember Diane that.
Huh?
Are we getting too comfortable?
Uh-huh.
We share one life because we have one source, a source from which perfection comes to us, remaining always in the holy mind that she created perfect. As we were, so we are now, and will forever be. A sleeping mind must waken, and as it sees its own perfection mirroring the Lord of life so perfectly, it fades into what is reflected there. And now it is no mere reflection. It becomes the thing reflected, and the light which makes reflection possible. No vision is now needed, for the wakened mind is one that knows its source, itself, its holiness.
So you see that beautiful circle? That beautiful circle now of an awakened perception. He says, and now it is no more mere reflection, it becomes the thing reflected, and the light which makes reflection possible. Remember in your in the 40s in the workbook, it says that God is the light in which I see.
And you become the light.
Yes. I am the light of the world. It starts to make these connections this way. This is beautiful. No vision now is needed. For the wakened mind is one that knows its source. Its true self. Its holiness. Yes. It finishes with that paragraph because that's a unifying paragraph, isn't it? Everything kind of you start to mix and combine and celebrate your holiness. This is awakening.
It pulls it together.
Yeah. Whereas everything else we talked about tonight with the word death involved is a separation, an end.
You okay?
An end.
Oh, okay.
That's a good yawn. So now, what I think we should take away tonight from this dramatic and lovely reading is similarly in the vein of what we're studying back in the special relationship.
Yes.
The Course says in a couple of times, like it has effectively said here, he says, don't substitute life with a capital L for the ego's version. Remember we read in the special relationship about the illusion and the reality of love? And he keeps pounding on us and he's saying, here's what you think love is. Look, it ain't. It's not how God works. It's not what love is. And if you continue to focus and describe a special love as love, you're now going to obviously, automatically transfer that to the big L love, because it's what you've been calling love.
Yeah. I love when they brought that sentence together with the special relationship and death.
That's the cost of pursuing an illusion of love, is you now block from your mind the possibilities of real love. What he's saying tonight is the cost of pursuing an illusion of life is that you will now ignore what life is. He says death does not come from life. Life is. Life is not defined by death. Life is not completed with death. Turns out life is.
Life is.
Yes.
And
Life.
always will be.
Yeah, life is. Without example, it is more. Life is, and without example, it is more. As soon as we put life in an example,
You mess up.
yes, you
got
start.
comparisons. You got all the tragedy of
Yes.
ego.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And from the state that we are now, we will now have to bring in what appears to be death as an end to that life. The Course is saying, don't fall for that ego maneuver. Don't let your mind define life with death. If you do, you're going to kill off God and love. We just read that.
Yeah.
He says, watch out for the slippery slope. What the ego, which is what we are awakening from, what the ego will show us is this definition of life that has the end. It has an end built into it. So quick, enjoy it while you can. Get as much as you can, because every moment it's slipping away from you.
Yeah.
This is the description of life.
Enjoy it while you can and be very, very afraid.
And be very, very afraid. Yeah, you might lose even. What if it goes early? Yes. Yeah, this is what we need to awaken from, and very specifically because you're dragging a cable with you there. Very specifically because the cost of believing in small L life is the cost in knowing large L life. You will not know true life if you hold a substitute for it as real. You will not know true love if you hold a substitute for love as real. And the Course says, worse than that, you'll reject true love because you think you know what it is. And it hurts. And there's arguments and fights after all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And then it ends in tragedy. So definitely don't expose yourself because it'll just hurt more.
And that's what we call love.
This is, yeah.
Arguments and tragedy, we call that love.
Yeah. So now he's doing it again. The same kind of thought process.
So
Only
we're
now
going to do the same thing with death that we do with
Right.
love. We're going to miss a whole meaning of what life is because we're going to project a different meaning to it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks
Exactly.
for saying that. That was a great analogy.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So if we think love, if we think love is what we get from somebody else when they're really good to us, and when they're not, we're without love.
That was our
We're going to live
story.
through that same suffering and pain and illusion our whole life.
Yeah.
Love is only what we have within here, and nobody can give it to us.
It's very expensive to seek for love outside.
Because
You'll have to seek, and then when it peters out, go seek some more, someplace else.
yeah, and that person feels like they're a hole in a donut, just like we do. And how we could expect them to deliver all the time.
And each time that you seek it and find it, and then you lose it, you got to starve in between.
Go
Yeah.
up and down like a yo-yo, depending upon what
There's a better
people
way.
do or say. They're happy or sad.
There's a better
Whole
way.
relationship.
There's a better way. And this particular lesson says, there is one life, and that I share with God. There are not different kinds of life, for life is like the truth. Life does not have degrees. Life is the one condition in which all that God created share. This is how important life is. Real life. Like all God's thoughts, life has no opposite. Whoa! Whoa!
Life has no
How
opposite.
can
Life has no
we
opposite.
measure anything? My God.
So all the people that we know that we thought died, like my mom, your dog, they're just in a different form. Nobody's died.
See that word died? See how she uses that word died? It's like it's real.
Everything is alive.
Oh, then because life is.
Wow. He's
Everything.
already got this stuff.
Everything, every emotion, every thought. Now, like all God's thoughts, life has no opposite.
Like the rocks.
There is no death because, well, here it is written right down for us. There is no death because what God created shares His life. Now the L is capitalized. There is no death because an opposite to God does not exist. There is no death because the Father and the Son are indeed one. And remember, we've separated ourselves off. That's why it uses the word Son, because we think we're different. You know, it has to use these words of separation because we're so identified being different than God. So struggling with that.
We are God.
But here he says, the Father and the Son are
One.
one.
God created us like Himself, so if He's eternal, we're eternal.
Mm-hmm. Do the math.
Yeah.
Remember I told you Jesus got really bad at math by the time he hung on the cross? He could only count to him. One. We have room.
cute.
Just
I like that.
we just a few more minutes left. But in this world, there appears to be a state. Appears. Here we're back into, he's recognizing the illusion, right? Appears to be a state that is life's opposite. You just said life has no opposite. But in this world, the perspective of the author. Oh yeah. So when you're hanging out here, in this world,
There's the other one.
yeah, very good.
Yeah.
In this world, there appears to be a state that is life's opposite. And you call it death. See, already from his perspective, he says, "Oh yeah, you call it death."
Yeah.
He's not, because he's beyond where death is
Right.
at all. I said, now, not death of an object, because those are gone for him too. It's much more important that you start to get your head around the concept of death isn't real. Not that things don't die, because things do die,
Bodies drop off,
right?
and flowers wilt.
Yes.
But if you write a book,
Yeah.
your words live on in everyone's minds.
And how long does the book last?
It could last forever if it keeps being reprinted.
Yeah.
That's the way you wrote it.
And where will it reside? On Earth?
Everywhere.
Oh.
Anywhere.
On Earth?
On Earth, in space, wherever it gets taken.
Oh, okay.
Anywhere that people are.
So all things,
If it gets read on the radio, it will We broadcast.
Broadcast.
Yeah. We'll just keep.
I don't have a radio.
Well, he's right. If you take a thought, say you write in a book, it has to be a book. If you take a thought and you share the thought, it's alive. And it's twice as big. Yeah, that's right. Certainly is. And that now we're moving to the concept.
I just thought of something.
Which is also why it's so much more important that you do not fixate on the idea of something dying or something ending, but rather awaken now, transcend, become enlightened to the true opposite of death. This is the unending life. It's deathlessness.
We should get rid of the word death. It
Deathlessness.
should be not a word in the dictionary.
What does deathlessness mean? You guys hear something? If something didn't die, it's still alive. Okay, fine. But we're still respecting death. Because it didn't die. We're still respecting death.
But
You see where I'm going?
yeah, deathlessness
There is
is
no the end.
Nice. Right. The end is not a valid concept. It's not valid. It's not valid.
Yeah.
It's not valid. You see how it's very difficult.
Because there was no beginning, so there's no end.
Right?
You weren't born, so you don't die.
This is what transcendence means. This is how enlightenment works. This is how a spiritual awakening occurs or comes to pass.
There's no beginning, so there's no end.
It's because you transcend the concept. What's unreal is actually seen as unreal. It no longer holds sway. It's no longer relied on. It's no longer used because it is not. That's deathlessness.
Like guiltlessness.
It's transcending the concept. Not any one example, like I say. Once you start going into the examples of something, you begin to limit it
Yeah.
hugely.
Define it.
So now what we're asking to do here,
Right.
Yes?
No, I was just going to say, and life and death live in that, in space. and
It's a
time.
continuum.
Right.
yes, they're concepts. The concepts that are applied, and we've applied them, and here, as it says here, we've dropped it down into a space and time discrete experience, different bodies, and the flower, and you water it, it lives, you don't, it dies.
But all roads lead to the moment.
Yes,
This moment.
yes,
Right?
good.
The holy
yes. And it turns out that's where life actually is.
Life is right now.
It's not in the flower,
Right.
it's right now.
Right now, in this second, as I speak, and now it's gone.
Yes.
It's just, in this moment is all there is.
Yeah, very important.
Everything
very
else is
important.
in the past.
Yes. Oh, isn't it beautiful? So, we have learned that the idea of death takes many forms. It's the one idea which underlies all feelings that are not supremely happy. There's death.
Not supremely happy.
If you have any thoughts that are not supremely happy, then
No love.
you're acknowledging death. That's where it is experienced in this world.
What?
Yeah.
If you have any thoughts that are not supremely happy,
Oh my God.
those not supremely happy thoughts
I have a lot of them.
have the foundation of death holding them up.
Well, explain that.
Exactly.
Explain that.
Because death is lost. You believe in the concept of death, therefore it will sneak into your life anywhere it has a chance.
It doesn't have to be
That's
death of the
how
body,
your beliefs-
a death of any
Right. Of anything
that makes you
no,
suffer.
No example is the concept of death.
Concept.
See, now I've moved us at the end of the meeting now, so we got to transcend now. Move yourself into the space of your mind where there's an addiction we caught. And the addiction was the end. We have an addiction, an idolization, a worshipping of the end.
Or we weave it into anything in our life that we think of.
So that's what makes the death of the body so sad. is, Mom's gone forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And God was that last bit.
Yep.
Bloody awful.
Bloody awful.
So I get. It's not the sadness; it's the getting stuck there in a loop.
Yes.
So in other words,
Defined even.
It's okay to be sad as a moment of completeness. It's the suffering comes from being stuck there.
Very good.
So in other words, the movie ends, and so God, I like that movie so much, I just can't go on.
I want to keep seeing that movie.
I mean, you're telling me there's no more. What was it? Speed. The Speed series. I saw there was a Speed 6 or 7. And I thought, oh, criminy. But so I've had books where it's like I can't stand it. This is almost over.
Yeah. Yes.
But if it's not the end,
Good.
if it's just,
If I may say, it's not defined by the end. An apparent end occurred, but we don't allow it to be defined by the end, which was so sad, so bloody, so miserable, so final, so over. So over.
You don't define
the
it.
addiction to the overness of it.
Is suffering. Yes.
So that's what makes the physical end.
What about all the years before, all the pages before it was over? What about all of that? We have now defined it by the end and dismissed.
Yes.
All of the wonderful things we say about it are now tainted by the end.
You're right.
See, the concept of death is present, and it colors, and it's weighty, and it is just not.
It's really hard to step outside of it.
Yes. Well, yes. Yes. That's why we have to really.
In the day-to-day.
Yeah, but hopefully you're smelling it a little bit. You're sensing a little bit of freedom.
The attachment of defining it as the end and not seeing the life
Yes.
and the experience
Yes.
that you had.
And the creativity that you had. And the constant celebrations you had. And all the wins that occurred.
Is that sort of like remembering the good memories of that person?
Yes.
And earlier thoughts instead of just thinking that they're gone and how sad it is.
Yes. So the Course says that.
You focus on all the happy memories.
Loving thoughts, can we call them? Can we call them loving thoughts? The ones you would keep? Loving thoughts? Yes. These are actually the times that you actually shared with this person. These are your creations. The times when you were patient and got a chance to be patient with that person. The time when you shed a tear reading a freaking book. It warmed your heart and you shed a tear. It was a great moment.
It's like I have these moments where I get to be my best self, and then when there are the moments where I don't get to be my best self,
Yes.
I feel sad.
Exactly. And the foundation of those sad thoughts is death. In tonight's reading, it's all thinking. But tonight's reading, it has a foundation of death. If you can get what we're talking about tonight, we take away that foundation, and that thought will be as wispy as any other you just changed your mind on.
The death thought.
Any thought that's not supremely happy thought. If you go to the source of it, the Course right here on this page is telling you the source of any thought that is not supremely happy.
Yeah.
And the source of it is the acknowledgement of the concept, the worshiping, the idling of, the idea of, the belief that it's true, death.
When you say death, you mean when you get old and then your body dies?
Well, that's part of that's one of the applications of death. That's one little final important
Lots of little deaths all the time.
exactly what we've been reading tonight. The death has a much bigger reach than just your body dying.
Right.
The death is what, Marcia?
It's when I'm not in the moments
It's the end.
where I'm my best self, or where I'm
Right.
supremely happy.
Death is having its effect in those moments. But the death itself is a belief in the end.
The overness.
That there's an
It's
end.
not there. For me, it's there or not there. And death is, it's not there.
Death is believing that there's an end, and it's taking its toll on you.
As you go.
As you go! Exactly, Dick.
So like dying for
What
years
does
and
that
years.
mean?
Say it again.
Oh, in
Say,
life.
In life.
David said it.
Right.
David said it.
Oh.
Say it again, David.
The result of your thinking.
Right.
It's the anticipation of death constantly.
The active building of it.
Yeah.
And the respect of the cost of death, big and little, not just not just that one. It's all the ends. Any example of death takes away from what we're talking about tonight. So any one body, any one flower, takes away from what we're talking about. We're talking about the concept of end.
Right.
And even if it's the end of being happy, because she said.
Yes,
So the fear of living.
that's how it feels.
The fear of that.
Fear comes out if there's an end. That means you lose something.
A survival fear. Like you feel like you're going to die. Is it your worst fear?
You see, it's the concept we're talking about that has the teeth. Not that any one thing dies, because this guy over here in the corner says, well, nothing really dies. It kind of goes into the garden and comes back up as a tomato later. It's okay. You'll see it again. It was a pumpkin one day and a tomato. That's all right.
This guy.
But you see,
That anything has an end.
yes. So death itself is not what we're really talking about,
It's the fear.
because you can work your way around that with spiritual gyrations, and you read the right book and let the book go on into space and it'll never die.
And you remember, you read books about how people died and they tell you their experience of how they...
Life after
afterlife.
death, being revisited by spirits. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Not taking away from any of that, but it's not the real topic tonight.
It's
What?
fear.
So you put the book on the radio, it goes on and on.
So it's the fear of
Yes.
loss, right?
Yes, it's really
fear of
loss.
loss.
It's the ultimate loss. The ultimate loss.
So every time you feel like you have loss, or you're fearing loss, whether
Yes.
it's love, or you had great happy thoughts and now you're depressed.
Yep.
That's like a death.
Well, it says right here in this paragraph too, it says, it's the one idea that underlies all feelings that are not supremely happy. It's the alarm to which you give response of any kind that is not perfect joy.
Well, that's all the time in my life.
So I want to go with what Marcia said. That, okay, so I get it for this instant, but I immediately know that I can't keep it up.
Oh, sure. That's right.
And I'm
And that,
dying again.
you bet.
I'm done.
That's exactly right. I'm dying. Very, very good. That's exactly what you should be saying to yourself. So you don't hide it. We don't want to hide this addiction to death, this idolizing of death.
We want to be aware of it.
We want to be aware of it.
We want to turn the light on.
We want to turn the light on. We want to go from endarkenment, which is death is real,
Well, I get anticipating, God, this mortgage is going to cost me 6 times as much.
and I'm anticipating death constantly. We want to go from that, which is endarkenment, because it will darken your thoughts, and weigh them down, to enlightenment, which recognizes, oh, this is another thought of death.
So if I get scared, if somebody gets angry at me, that's another death.
Yes, if you're unhappy with it.
Because I'm fearful.
If it's not a supremely happy thought, I'm just quoting the book now.
So it's like another
Extremely
death.
happy.
That's why fear
You know,
feels like
Not
I know what the book says, but
firmly
But-
loving.
we took a little, a test one night about how many people in the room here have really had some happy moments.
Yeah, that was something, wasn't it?
How many? 4 maybe out of 12.
It was pretty sobering.
Yeah.
So?
Well, we managed to get people who say they had one, but it was not many in their lives.
Or one. So a couple of them came
Couple
up
of them
with
came up with one.
There were
Yes.
several silent.
Yes.
Never experienced. Happy.
Yes.
That's not what we're talking about.
Yes.
We're talking about a level way the hell and back. And that is total happiness.
Yes.
Something that you can't lose or be taken from you. That's what the happiness we're talking about. I can't say I've never had that. Happiness that can never be taken from me. Because I've been happy,
Yeah.
but it could be taken away.
Yeah.
So it really
Well-
wasn't true happiness.
Now remember, that night, we did get past some of these experiences, and we found moments in life that were not taken away.
That's right.
That's right. It did.
It had some of those.
There weren't a lot of them, but they were
When you love,
forever.
nobody can take that away.
Yes.
When you're truly loving,
Yes.
that's yours.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's right. That's right. And you have them too, Wendy.
Oh, yeah, I do. I forgot.
Yeah, you have
I've
them
been
too.
having a lot of non-loving.
Thank you, Cecilia. That's exactly
I
right.
completely forgot that there was.
A lot of loving thoughts that never go away.
I
That's
like
right.
what you said. Like
And-
when I totally
And
love.
this really
I
takes
can't lose
some
that.
discipline.
Thank you.
In my opinion,
Yes.
this really takes some, I gotta say work, but it really takes a commitment to even step on this tremendous feeling of joy. Okay? It really, it doesn't come easily. It doesn't come easily to me. Okay, even though in my growing up years,
Yes.
I was very happy and joyful.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
But I cannot imagine I'm doing it unless I am in control of my thoughts. If I'm not tuned in to what in the hell I'm thinking, guess what? I am doomed to get a swat here and a knockdown there.
And Dick, isn't it turned out to be true? It's even simpler than that. That the happiest times in your life were times when you weren't trying to do it.
That's
You weren't
exactly
trying to think. You were actually letting loose, relief, forgiving,
Yeah.
and receiving instead. And you found yourself flowing with the situation, and the other person
Or
came
trying to
first.
organize. What'd you say? What's?
Isn't that true? How hard was that?
Organize the present.
Turns out you didn't do.
It's in the moment of what is and not all the other garbage that we drag up with our thinking.
Yes, and it was so simple.
Yeah.
Now trying to repeat it becomes very hard.
Yeah, that's right.
Becomes very difficult and complex.
When we're really still
the
and
ego.
not thinking is when we experience the greatest joy.
Yeah, the ego will try to
Mind
architect it
stops
again,
thinking.
and that gets complex. But the fact is, you just release, and you need do nothing as quickly as possible.
Stop thinking
That's
if you're in pain. Stop thinking.
That's really
Because all my thoughts create my pain.
not doing anything.
Yeah. Let's have a circle. Closing meeting.
I wasn't quite ready.
Good triangulation, Lisa.
I wasn't ready, but I wasn't going to turn it
Thank you,
down.
darling.
You're welcome.
Don't forget the electric light bill.
Yes.
You all.
Prepare for the heater bill next week.
Y'all.
You all.
Y'all would show.
Thanks, Dick.
That was nice.
Take a breath. Still alive.
Got another breath.
Transcend this idea of end. And that life is not defined by how much before death comes.
Yeah.
Somehow, right here, right
Where to
now.
look.
The Course promises us that there's this thing, life, with a capital L, that is empowering and working in your mind. And you've tried to manifest it in something as a substitute for it. You've manifested in a body which seems to be certainly dying. The Course says, yeah, that's it. Death does not come from life.
Death does not come.
Hey, Jesus says, you guys, this death thing,
You got it wrong.
this is a substitute for life. Please don't mistake this wonderful, wonderful gift of life
It's good.
for the substitute you have made. So let us live now.
Wow.
Unending celebration of this wonderful gift that transcends the substitute we seem to have
Beautiful.
here. Thank you. Thank you. Happy
Let's
Halloween.
live now. Oh, that was great. We tied into Halloween. That was wonderful. Wow.
Lucid. Be lucid. Hey, man. Thank you.
I'll leave it to that.
You weren't here, I was worried. When I walked in and you weren't here, I was worried.